Welcome back to Supernatural ASMR.
That's not what we are.
You guys like the fingertips?
You know, to this day, I'm still mind blown by how many people really like that shit.
I know. I saw.
I am not one of them.
Do you know they have
It's
a
not for
thing
me.
called? How many seconds are we into this? Sorry, I have to make sure that we're over the time. But they have a thing called murder ASMR. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, I saw it one day.
Do they just like stick their hand in a bunch of noodles, making like killing sounds?
Yeah,
like
and they're just like they go in front of the
something?
camera and they're just like putting the knife across like the mic and they're like, "Yeah, you liked when I put my knife there," whatever. And then you're just like, "What the fuck?" People actually like dig that shit.
Well, I could kind of see that. You know how in like kill scenes in movies and stuff where the killer's like dragging the knife on the wall or the like clanking metal pipes.
Yeah. That's supposed to be scary though, not
sexually arousing.
Not to say that ASMR is all sexual, but I mean, let's be real. The undertones are definitely there.
You know, with the amount of ASMR I've actually seen,
yeah,
it usually is like a very attractive girl always doing it, I swear.
Then I'm happy you haven't been to the side of YouTube I've been on with the murder ASMR and shit, because I've definitely seen the exact opposite. I've seen kidnapping ASMR. That one's crazy. I've seen a bank robbery like in ASMR. Like they literally, this shit was crazy. It was a full on like set. Like it looked like 4K, like full on Hollywood movie, but everything was whispered. So it was like this lady breaks in and she's just like, you know, they're waving the guns around and they're like 911. No, the lady literally goes, "Put the money in the bag." And it's and she's like, "Put the money in the bag, bitch." And you're just like, what the fuck? Like, that's so crazy.
I'm not gonna lie, that would be kind of entertaining to watch though.
I mean, it was. I will say I did watch the full thing.
The murder and the kidnapping ones could do without, but like a bank robbery would be so funny. It's like, just 911, what's your emergency? I really need a lot of help. Someone's got a gun.
What's your emergency, ma'am?
Ma'am, don't shout.
Ma'am, I'm going to need you to calm down. I'm being calm. Quieter, bitch.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, this has gone in a completely different direction. Oh, man. No,
hey, not knocking if you like it, but it's just kind of, it is out of the ordinary.
It is wild that there's a full, like...
There's an audience for it.
Well, like a fat audience. Dude.
Oh, I know.
It's like how we have an audience with horror, and yet we have all these different subgenres. ASMR is becoming that. Like it, maybe not as big as horror. I mean, probably not, but like they have like overall ASMR, right? You just talk quiet, or you do things like to try to get those tingles, or whatever the hell the main point is. I personally think it's
makes your hair stand up.
It doesn't do that for me. I just sit there and I think, this is kind of sexual, right? Like you just kind of feel like it's just a little, I don't know why, but it feels like it. So but it is interesting that there's all these subgenres of ASMR now.
Well, I think just like talking in like a low soothing voice is just meant to be sexual.
Is that soothing to you?
Maybe not. Not maybe not to me. Like, you know, when you're like
pillow talk.
Or like whispering to your significant other in the bedroom, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, but even when I do that, I'm like,
you might be yelling.
I'm not yelling, but I'm a little more like quiet about it, I guess. I'm not just like, yeah, what's up? No, I'm like, hey, you know, how you doing? Like, you know, I have a little bit of my voice in there. It's like soft spoken, but it's still my voice, as opposed to just straight
there's some
up whisper.
like actual depth there.
Yeah. Because like, who the hell? I love you. Like, that's creepy. I don't know. I guess it's just not for
us.
Not for me. Anyway, if you've noticed, little guy. Well, actually, if you're listening, you probably haven't noticed, but if you're watching, yes, I decided to release my inner grandpa with this sweater that I'm wearing, but it's cold outside, so that's why. Second of all, I'm also doing laundry.
It's very like neutral colored. Like,
do you like it?
I do.
It's cool, right? I got it for one of my author photos, for one of my book launches, and I never actually ended up using it. So I used the other knitted one that I had instead. So this one was.
I was like trying to think back because I took the photos.
Yeah. So
and I'm like, I knew he wore something.
I had like, I have
very
multiple
similar,
different.
Very similar.
This might be my book 3 one. Hey, what do you guys think? No, on the little desk here, other than our drinks, we have a little Funko Pop with Art the Clown. Because today we're talking about Terrifier, one of my favorite freaking, honestly, franchises in all of horror. Dude has truly become like
an icon,
a horror icon. He's up there with Freddy. He's up there with Jason. And it's cool because I was there from the beginning and nobody really cared about him. And then all of a sudden now it's like everybody gets to experience this.
Now it's just like the top craze.
Yeah.
You know,
he's got his own animatronic at Spirit Halloween.
That is crazy.
Everybody's got, costumes and all that. And
he's truly changed pop culture.
I would say so, at least in the horror community. Yeah. It's slashers for sure, because those have been, they've been kind of down lately, and they've been trying to, nothing's really grasped the like 80s or 70s feel of a old slasher movie quite like Terrifier has.
Oh, he brings back such a euphoric feeling where and nostalgic feeling as well, right?
Oh, 100%.
Like, yeah, you get your synthwave cool music as like character building. You get you get the horror music behind it. It's just, and it's modern, which is a really cool thing as well, right? He takes like things to the next level. Yeah.
So if you guys haven't seen any of the Terrifier movies, I suggest you watch them before proceeding with this, because we're obviously going to talk a lot about it and have a lot of spoilers. Oh, fuck. A lot of spoilers.
What the fuck just happened?
I fucked it up. Anyway. So we're going to have a lot of spoilers. And, so just,
truly a revival of slashers, though.
Absolutely. And we do have to, a big thing about Terrifier is that it's indie. It's not a part of any giant studio or anything. It's not Universal. It's not A24. It's not any of that. It's
literally started from the bottom.
Literally from the bottom. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the guy who created good old Art the Clown today. But we'll get into that in a second. So for starters,
you always do that.
I know I get way too ahead of myself.
Your inner dumb excitement comes out, and you're like, "Well, we're gonna get there."
I'm really excited about this episode. I know, because I love Art the Clown, man, and it's been a journey for me too. So it's fun. So I do want to go ahead and talk about our discovery of Art the Clown first before anything else. And so, Jake, why don't you lead off with that? How did you discover Art the Clown and Terrifier?
One night, I was just randomly browsing Netflix, back when Netflix was cheap. You could have it in multiple households.
Share accounts.
All the
Still
goodness.
Share it with your ex. All that,
all the goodness that came with Netflix perks, And I'm just, browsing new movies, trying to find something. Because I think at the time I was, I think I was still living with my parents at this point.
Yeah.
And going to college, and all of a sudden I just see this fucking movie called Terrifier. I'm like, what the hell is this?
The thumbnail had the little picture of his face on it, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, so you know how Netflix gives the little like trailer clip?
Yeah. So
I watch it and I'm like, holy fuck, this dude's absolutely mutilating people.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's watch this. So, I just randomly stumble upon him and watch the movie, and I'm just, my jaw's to the floor because I'm like, where did this movie and idea come from?
Yeah.
And little did I know that there was more to his story than I was even aware of. But yeah, that's how I actually found him. I didn't know his prior things. I just know I found him at his first official Terrifier movie.
Yeah.
And I've loved and followed him since.
Yeah.
and like just dove deep into the director as well, you know, and the characters behind it, more or less in the following films than the first one, right? Because there's not a lot of plot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my story.
Hell yeah. Mine is a little bit like
yours goes a little deeper.
It does, just a tad bit. There's a real love here. It's like seeing Art as big as he is now. It kind of makes me feel like, you know, when your buddy, like, you know, is gonna go up and talk to a girl, and for the longest time, like, he can't do it, and you're just like, dude, come on, like, you're good looking, you got a
you're
job,
hyping him up,
you're trying to hype him up, and he just time after time just doesn't do it, and then the one day, he goes up there and he talks to her, and it works, and you're sitting there looking at him, and you're just like, my God, he did it. That is how I feel about Art the Clown. I'm like, my God, he made it. So back in high school, I had a buddy named Trevor. Shout out Trev, if you're listening. And I used to, we used to always, hang out at each other's houses and shit. And he, one thing that we like to do, we both liked movies a lot. And so one night, I don't know, we were trying to watch horror movies and stuff. And I think like The Conjuring had come out. Maybe it did. I don't know. We were looking up like horror movies, or maybe it was the first Purge, like the Purge movie, not like the first Purge, but the Purge, and I think that came out or whatever. Regardless,
you were trying to find something,
trying to find a horror movie. And we weirdly, we're like, there's nothing on Netflix. There's nothing on. So we were like, let's just look up free shit on YouTube. And sure enough, we're going through just free YouTube horror movies.
The depths of YouTube. Good and bad. Good and bad.
I come across this movie, little short film called Terrifier. And I was like, oh, that looks kind of cool. It had like a creepy clown in it. And we watched it. And yeah, it was crazy. It was so insane. It featured, this, we'll talk more about it, but basically it was just a short film that featured the clown. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we go to when that was done, like the little 11-minute video or whatever, beneath it was the same clown, but it was called All Hallows Eve. Mm-hmm. And it said 2013. I think this was 2014 when we were doing this. Because it was
the first movie came out, I think, in 2016. So
yeah, it was definitely a couple of years before. So I'm sitting there and I go, holy shit, like that's the same clown. Let's watch this. And again, we'll dive into it a little deeper, but that movie, bro, that shit got me. We were freaking out at 3 o'clock in the morning and stuff. And it was just, there was a little bit of I guess when it comes to indie movies, there's a hint of, danger because you're not really sure, like movie studios are going to release something. It could be effed up, right? Sinister, Universal, that's an effed up movie. They show some shit that you're like, wow. But when it comes to an indie movie, there's no guidelines to what you can and can't show. So while Sinister was all effed up, for example, the lawnmower scene in Sinister, they cut away right before. Mm-hmm. In an indie movie, you could straight up show that shit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So there was a little bit of sense of
boundaries.
Yeah. It kind of felt like you were watching a found footage horror movie in a way. Mm-hmm. And so that was cool. Flash forward to 2016, or I'm sorry, it was 2017 when I found Terrifier because I was sitting there. I was dating my ex at the time, and I went to Redbox. You guys remember Redbox? That was a thing. Mm-hmm. And I just see little Art the Clown's dumbass sitting there, like in the Redbox thing, and I go, "What? No way!" So I was like, "Holy shit, Dad!" I'm like, "I gotta get this thing." He's like, "All right, I'll watch it with you later." My dad passes out during movies a lot of the time. I guess it's just a dad thing.
It is 100% a dad thing.
Yeah.
They're like, pick out the movie. We're watching one tonight. And you pick one out and then
5 seconds later,
you look over, his eyes are completely shut. You're like, well, I guess I'm watching this by myself.
Watch this, yeah.
Redbox, dude.
So, it's just that. Then I watched Terrifier with my dad, and then I showed it to my ex. That was kind of crazy. And then I gave it back to Redbox, and then flash forward and we're up here and all of a sudden they're like Terrifier 2 is coming out and it's actually going to be released in theaters. We saw it was coming out in theaters here and we went to go see it. And yeah, I was only supposed to be there for 10 days and then
turnout was crazy.
It went insane all the way through like Christmas. And then
I know
Terrifier 3 was just a massive opening for Art the Clown. I mean, it became a trend on TikTok to go to freaking the Terrifier movie. It was cool.
Wait, that was a trend?
Well, yeah, it was like a whole thing.
Well, it was like a challenge, like don't throw up during the movie.
I saw one and it was like, I told my mom or my family that this was a family friendly Christmas movie. And it showed like their reaction, like they were filming them, like their reaction in the movie. And they were like, when he's chopping the kid up at the beginning, they're like, what the hell?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Anyway,
it is crazy how like the first official movie, no marketing, nothing, just appeared in red boxes on Netflix, and all of a sudden, it's now one of the biggest horror icons to date.
Well, I think word of mouth really helped for Terrifier. Like, I think, it's been a long journey. I mean, we'll go through the whole thing, but
yeah, it didn't happen overnight.
No,
that's for sure.
Definitely didn't happen overnight.
As great things never do.
Exactly. We know that. But yeah, it's just when you continuously work at something, it really is inspiring when you see it pay off. And I think 100%. That's partially why I'm so, I mean, I've never met him, Damien, but he's the guy who created Terrifier. We'll talk about him, but I'm proud of him, honestly, because
you're like really happy for him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's not easy to do what he did. And you know, when you have a dream, you stick to it. And then next thing you know, I mean, you just keep putting in work and eventually good things will come. So,
well, being a great idea, right?
Yeah.
And seeing where he started to where it is now is just such a crazy, like, experience and like thing to, you know, it's like how phones changed over time, right?
Yeah.
Technology changes throughout the years. It's crazy to be like, wow, remember when we were little and cell phones were bricks?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's like, oh yeah, you know, 10, 15 years ago, I created a horror icon.
Mm-hmm.
And in 10 years time, he became the face of horror basically at this moment.
Exactly.
It's just a cool accomplishment.
It is cool. I would say him and Robert Eggers,
they're the face of horror right now.
They kind of led horror this year. Directing wise, I think like Damien is leading the indie genre in a place that we haven't seen it go before. I mean, it's mass movie theater releases and things like that. I mean, it's insane. It's unbelievable, really.
Didn't Nosferatu break box office records?
I don't actually know how it performed in the box office. That's something I haven't looked up. But
I thought I read that it just like
was
insane.
It did like the best for an R-rated movie released on Christmas, I believe. I think. Don't quote me on that. I believe that's what I read, but I do know people saw it. People loved it. I know a lot of people weren't expecting it to be kind of art housey, but I mean, if it wasn't and it was more mainstream, I would have hated it.
Oh yeah. I
you
agree.
can't take a classic silent film like that and not have it feel like a classic silent film.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just updated.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have that. I'm sorry. It's just so, I mean, honestly, if you didn't like Nosferatu and maybe you don't like Midsummer or The Witch or any of that, I do suggest like maybe dive into those movies, maybe watch them one more time and think about how the filmmaking is different and how these filmmakers are taking chances as opposed to just doing the same cookie cutter stuff that we are kind of used to.
It's more about the shots and how they develop them, right?
Yeah.
Instead of having, you know, mainstream sounds and actors carry your film.
Yeah, it's a lot more atmospheric, and I think that that's a big deal. Now, Terrifier is full on cliches. I mean, it is, but that's why I love it so much.
It is, but it's done so well.
Yeah.
Like
it's like modern cliche. It's like, yeah, I guess it's not, I don't know. It has good heart in there. Like it has good, like,
I think what really sets it apart, even with the cliches, because any movie can have those. It's like, especially the last two, the character I know we've talked about this. The character development in them is just unmatched to any other horror movie.
Well, that's a bold statement.
I think so.
I think it's up there, but I would say that's
in terms of indie horror films.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm not talking mainstream. I'm talking straight indie films.
It's good, but it's not like,
let me clarify. Indie films, the most character development you could ask for, really.
I'll say that. Yeah. I agree.
And that's what drives it. Like, you learn to love these characters, and then all of a sudden, they might be taken from you.
Yeah. It kind of, I'll be real. Terrifier kind of makes it. I don't know if you remember watching The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. When you liked a character a lot, and you like really didn't want them to die, and then once they got through the season, you're like, yes, they didn't die, and then maybe next season they die in like a horrible way, and you're like, no, that sucks. And then afterwards you're kind of sad.
You talking about Glenn?
I am talking about Glenn, specifically Glenn. Yeah. And that's kind of how Terrifier makes me feel. It's like you have that sense of nobody's safe. Like, somebody could get absolutely sawed in half, like intestine showing and all that shit. Like, it doesn't matter who you are in Terrifier. It's like you could get the worst treatment possible. And that's exactly what happened to Allie in Terrifier 2.
That is true. But it's always the characters around, like the main character, that just get absolutely...
Other than Terrifier 3. A certain somebody...
True.
I have a theory about that, but we can talk about that when we get to the movie. So first, let's talk about Damien. So Damien Leone, he was born in 1984. And Damien's mother... actually named him Damien after the character in The Omen. So you could say that he was introduced to horror at a very young age. After witnessing the Thriller music video, Leone became fascinated with the art of being able to transform humans into monsters. He bought a makeup kit and special effects kit and began making short films with his friend's camcorder. Now, this is just the beginning, because we eventually want him to be on our podcast. So we'll let him tell you all about his life when we do inevitably get him. That's a promise. But now I want to talk about the fact that he writes, directs, and edits all of the Terrifier films. That's an insane amount of work, but he just kept at it, and now art has bought him a crazy amount of fame.
Wait, he edited his own movies?
Oh
my gosh. That does take a lot of effort. Let me tell you.
Jake can tell you.
Props to him, because holy cow.
So his refusal to work with the big studios has allowed him to have complete freedom over his works. Mm-hmm. So yeah, while it took way longer for Art the Clown to become a household name, it ended up working. And I think that we can all look at Damien Leone and actually be inspired, as it shows you that if you truly trust in your idea, as long as you bust your ass, it can work.
Completely. It just might take twice as long, 3 times as long. You don't know. You don't know, right? Yeah, you don't know what's going to stick at the time.
Exactly. And I guess all it takes is one little thing and one right move, and you could be snowballing into success.
Yeah, because like, what if he released these movies and ideas 5 years ago or 5 years later, right? Yeah. Would they have hit the same?
Yeah.
Who knows? Because right now, with a bunch of other films like Halloween coming out, like they've remade that trilogy, and they came out with 3 movies and, a couple other slashers here and there that really like kind of spawned the revival of it again, but then had Terrifier come in and really lift that genre back up.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, again, though, it's because it pushes the boundary for slasher films, as opposed to Halloween kind of played it safe. I mean, there was some crazy kills.
It did, but there was also a very like high production film too.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just feel like, is it weird that I feel like the Halloween movies feel cheaper than like Terrifier 2 and 3?
I think it has to do with how great the practical effects are in those movies, though.
Especially Terrifier 3.
Yeah.
That blurred the line. So
I
know. So Art the Clown, the guy that we're talking about really the whole time this episode, obviously was created by Damien Leone. The mysterious clown is known for being silent, freaky, and strangely funny as hell. Leone found inspiration for Art the Clown by thinking of people's primal fear of clowns. What makes a clown scary and what doesn't. He also got the idea for a clown to be silent and mime-like from silent film icons like Charlie Chaplin. His original idea he had for the clown in his head was that he would be the only other passenger on a city bus with a woman late at night. This idea was brought to life in Leone's first horror short, The Ninth Circle, which released in 2008. Now, The Ninth Circle is a short film that follows a woman at a bus station late at night, and she notices a clown dressed in black and white stalking her. What did you think? Because you saw it.
I did. I thought it was a good small introduction to him, but you barely saw what he was capable of.
Yeah, which
right?
I think that's the one thing I do want to say is Art the Clown wasn't the main antagonist of that whole thing.
He was just a small part in the broader picture.
Exactly.
Which was cool.
He led the girl to hell is what I'm assuming. Now, I do know Damien actually originally wanted Art the Clown to be a minion for Satan. He wanted basically Art the Clown to lure people, and then he would be like, he would kidnap them, and then the devil would eventually like.
He was just doing the devil's work.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Then eventually it kind of morphed a little bit. But yeah, continue with what you were saying about the short film. What did you think?
I thought the short film was interesting. It was kind of, it was for a second all over the place, but then it made sense as it went on, you know? Because like all of a sudden you're just seeing these like, this girl gets like syringed by him. Yeah. And you're like, okay, she got drugged. She's about to pass out, faint, whatever. But then she starts like seeing these crazy faces, which are actually very, very scary.
Yeah, they were cool. Yeah.
Like, well done there.
Well, that's the cool thing about Damien Leone is that this is a trend that went from The Ninth Circle and continued throughout every movie he's ever done. Practical effects.
Well, and because
that I want to talk about
being a makeup artist. Yeah. That's just next level because now you have all these ideas and you can bring them to life because you have the background to do it by yourself, right? That's cool.
Well, that I want to talk to you about because you're into filmmaking and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Practical effects. How do they differ from CGI?
Oh, so much.
They feel like
when you have practical effects, the age of the movie can last a lifetime. Yeah. The CGI, it dates like, you know, you can't, it looks old if it's like old technology. It does look dated. It looks like it's just computer generated. It is. Yeah. But you know, during the time the movie may have come out, you don't see that as much. Like you can tell it's fake, you know, but with practical effects, holy shit, that shit can look so realistic. Yeah. And you're just sitting there going, is this actually real? Yeah, you know?
Well, that's the cool thing. Again, I'm going to kind of swap franchises here in a second, but Alien Romulus kind of took the CGI heavy Prometheus and Alien Covenant and flipped it on its head with a practical effects heavy with CGI amplified style movie. And that I think was cool. All the face huggers were practical effects with the occasional CGI one or whatever, but they're puppets and they look really cool.
And I believe it looked like all of the scenes, most of the scenes in that movie were shot in a set environment rather than generating something on green screen.
Yeah, they built that whole set. Yeah, yeah.
You know how even in like Avengers movies or whatever, like the world looks so cool, but it's all just generated, right? And they're just
you can tell. Oh yeah. I mean, it's like I still love those movies with all my heart.
Oh, I'm not discrediting that they're not great movies. I'm just saying like you can tell that they're not in like Wakanda, right?
Yeah,
you know, fighting. They're doing it in a green screen big Hollywood room.
Yeah. But there is that sense of magic when you see a film set and like Nosferatu. I mean, I'm going to keep bringing that up because it was so good. And I just thought the cinematography, I mean, there were certain scenes that were lit up exclusively by candlelight.
And let me tell you,
that was cool.
Let me tell you, lighting is everything. Everything. Yeah. It can literally transform the look of and feel of your movie or film, whatever, you know? Yeah. And that is like a very hard thing to do. it takes a lot of skill to be able to translate thousands of candles to make it look a certain way on the screen, and it come out like that movie.
Well, that was cool. Is that like you said, you know, the majority of scenes are so well staged, I would say, because you have to really get the light to look perfect for that scene. And Nosferatu was so cool because it was just candles. And you're like, it did feel darker. It felt like dimmer, but the candle flickers and stuff was so cool. And it felt totally on brand for the movie. So, but I mean, what kind of CGI did they even have in that movie? Like probably a couple buildings, I would say, you know, probably a couple things.
I would say like the front of the buildings were probably set. And then like anything beyond it was probably CGI, like the moon and the like sky and like maybe his like house way in the distance and stuff like that. That's probably fake. But like the street, they probably built that, right? Yeah. And
the castle too.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure they filmed it like a castle.
Dude, there's a behind the scenes of Bill getting all his makeup on, and it is wild to see the transformation.
I gotta see that because that's cool. But
it's just so crazy going back to makeup artists that you can turn like just a normal person, right?
Yeah,
into such a different looking character.
Yeah.
Completely.
Well, I think that's why I appreciate these Terrifier films too, is because, I mean, maybe it's because I grew up with it, and like all the practical effect like kills. But when it comes to the kills, I mean, Terrifier is so over the top with the blood and the guts and all the gore and all that. But I like low key love it and appreciate it.
I high key love it
because you can tell the amount of work that's put in to make it look as good as it does. Now, you could sit there and be like, okay, these are practical effects. Obviously, that might look a little fake, or that might, but you appreciate it a lot more because of the work that went in behind it, as opposed to a CGI kill where you're just like, okay, that's computer generated blood. That's, you know, it just, 100%. It looks lazy a lot of the time.
It can, for sure. Well, the one thing that's really hard about those like effects, like blood splattering or like that waterfall effect you get when people's necks get slit and stuff, like that's not easy to do.
Oh, of course
like
not.
To build like some sort of mechanism that can spew the blood out of like latex holes and stuff this is not easy.
No, and what's crazy though is that, you know, that's not easy, and yet Damien Leone amplifies it like by 100, where they're ripping people's arms off and stuff. And there's a lady pleasuring herself with a piece of glass and like blood is coming out. And you're just like, the fuck?
Oh, I know.
Yeah. It's like you see that shit and you're like, that's gotta be so much harder than, just like a random, like just a stab. And then, you know, you kind of cut the camera and like the blade's coming out the back with like the blood coming out.
The scene in number 3 where he steps and his leg busts. And
Oh my God. Well, we'll talk about all the best kills from each movie because they're definitely in there. But
but like that broken leg, like everyone in the theater went, when that happened. Like, and to make it look and have a theater respond that way from your film, that's cool.
It is cool. That's really cool. No, that's I definitely appreciate his stuff. So Terrifier that came out in 2011, the short film that I was talking about. Basically, it starts with Art the Clown, and first I want to say Art the Clown from all 3 of the first projects was not played by David Howard Thornton, which is how everybody knows Art the Clown now because of the 3 movies that, you know, he's a part of. This guy was Michael Gianelli, I think is his name, something Italian, but he retired from acting actually before Terrifier came out.
You think he would have maybe been the guy? Or do you think they would have auditioned other people? No,
I think he was definitely the guy that was supposed to be Art the Clown, but he retired from acting, and therefore Damien Leone was like, hey, you know, there's this other guy, and David Howard Thornton came in, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And this other guy though, Michael, he was very like aggressive as Art the Clown. It was a more aggressive Art the Clown, I would say. He was a lot more mean, You know, he
like
wasn't kind
really
of
getting into the character.
Yeah, but like he was like a bigger dude.
Mm-hmm.
David Howard Thornton's pretty damn skinny, so it's like, you know, kind of a difference there. But you just had like this like meaner feel to him, I would say. Not as much like in the comedy side. And in the Ninth Circle, he was only in there for a little bit, but then the Terrifier short film, which was actually a part of the anthology All Hallows Eve, and that shit was cool because, you know, they let him kind of like run rampant a little bit in that one. And you kind of got to see the full extent of like, oh shit, this guy's not playing around. And that was also the time when you got to see Damien really trust in the idea that was Art the Clown, as opposed to, you know, these other ideas that he had, right? Like Art the Clown in the Ninth Circle was a minion for the devil.
He's a very side character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, well, in the Terrifier short film, he's a clown that stalks this lady on Halloween night. And it's cool because you see these ideas used in the other Terrifier films. Like basically, you remember the first Terrifier movie when they have the pizza parlor scene and the dude like goes, like Art comes in and he's like staring at her and stuff. And then he goes to the bathroom. Yep. And he rubs like shit all over the place. And then he comes out and then it's a whole thing. And then he kills like the police or the pizza guys. And then like the whole thing. Well, that was essentially the short film that was Terrifier.
Gotcha.
It was kind of similar, but it was at a gas station. So then he goes in to the gas station. The gas station guy goes in and then she like tries to say like, hey, you know, goodbye. And she like walks in and he's like sawing the dude in half and shit. And you're like, okay. So it's kind of the same thing. So you see that. I also think, we'll talk about it later, but yeah. So you haven't seen the Terrifier short film, have you?
I haven't. I have not.
What about All Hallows Eve? No.
Nope. I haven't. I didn't even hear about him until I really like met you and you were like, dude, you have to see these. And I was like, I'll get to them eventually, and just haven't.
Yeah. So All Hallows Eve was cool because it was essentially that one released in 2013.
Which is kind of crazy that I haven't seen that, because anthologies are one of my all-time favorite subgenres of horror.
Yeah, it was cool because it featured 4 different short films, and they were all kind of tied together by one main story. So it was about this babysitter who she found like a bunch of videotapes, or I think it was just one videotape, and she put the kids to bed, and then she put the videotape in, and turns out it was these 4 different movies. And within each, like after each movie ended, she would be like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like I hear something. And then she'd go back and watch the next one. And I think the last one featured Art the Clown. Maybe it was the third to last, but one of them featured Art the Clown, and it was actually the Terrifier short film. And after that, there's this scene where it's like a boiler room and Art the Clown comes out. And he starts like looking into the camera and stuff, and he starts walking towards her, and then like towards the camera. And then all of a sudden she turns because she hears something, and she looks back, and then he's gone. And then she's like, what the hell? And then she goes upstairs, and then Art the Clown is actually like in person, and he had like killed the kids and all that. And then he like kills her, and then the movie ends, and then it kind of like during the credits, it fades and it shows the same boiler room, and Art is actually coming at you as the viewer. And I remember watching that shit with Trevor, and all of a sudden, like we see that, and I was like, bro, get the remote. What the fuck? Like turn this shit. It was fun, dude. It's like a late night horror movie. Now I want you to lead us through the first feature length film of Art the Clown, which polarized viewers with its intense gore, practical effects, and fantastic breakout performance by David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. Proceed.
My memory on it is a little vague. However, I do remember him just basically mauling a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole movie. Yeah. He follows like a kind of a group.
Well, it's 2 girls.
And plus killing just like the pizza
random
people.
Ass people. They're set up as the main, which I do kind of like. That's the one twist I enjoy, is that they're set up to be, especially the girl in the black, they're set up to be the main protagonists.
Yeah.
And then they get fucking mobbed. And then it turns out to be the main protagonist is the sister.
The scene in
the best kill.
Like, is it like the car garage?
Wait, which one?
Where like she's just like cut in half.
Oh no, that's the scene. Yeah. So they're in the. They
I
go
thought it
into
was
this,
like a car garage, but
yeah. So they go into this building. I don't know where it is, but it's like a warehouse type thing, and they she's her friend. She wakes up after a little chase with Art the Clown, and there's a whole thing where she's hanging upside down, naked as fuck, and then Art takes a saw and saws her from the bottom to the top.
Oh yeah.
And that's one of the most, I will say, when I watched that with my dad, because I told you I watched this, I literally looked over to make sure he was asleep, because I was like, this would be.
You're like watching
Good
it. You're
God.
like, this is really entertaining. Like, look over. He's asleep.
No, I was in shock. When I first saw it, I genuinely was in shock. Because again, I had seen all the Art the Clown stuff, but nothing was really like that. I mean, that was really gory and intense, and it was just what the like he's sawing this chick in half.
Yeah, it is
nuts.
Crazy. The main, well, I guess you'd call it plot of the movie though, is he's going and he's just attacking these two people. That's really what it is.
It was
that was basically the movie.
Very thin plot to, in my opinion, be used as a device to just show off Art the Clown killing a bunch of people.
Right. It's like, this is kind of what he's now capable of, right?
Yeah.
It's like a really just stepping stone into his era of horror.
But it also showed him be kind of funny, because it was,
He's very comedic.
The first scene in the pizza parlor, I think, is my favorite scene, because he comes in just like a regular guy and he sits down and he does all the, like, he just stares at her from across the thing and he starts smiling and he starts like, then he goes and gets her a little ring, and then that one's funny. But I think the funniest scene in that whole thing, it's on the back of this Funko box with the bike.
Oh yeah.
But he's riding the bike. The sister, who turns out to be the actual protagonist, she's hiding and she sees him on this little tricycle. And he fucking eats shit. Like, he just runs into some shit and just falls. And dude, that's so funny.
It's like in like the scary movies when they make the ghost face actually like trip over shit and like fall realistically, like just be very clumsy.
Yeah.
It's like, that's really funny, because
I think it's
that is like normal.
He's also, he's a clown.
Yeah.
So he is like
supposed to be funny.
He's supposed to be a clown, And
yeah.
it's like, he's, freaking evil as hell. But it is interesting that you find this kind of like sense of like, this guy's funny. This is a guy. This is a chill guy.
You're like, this guy's
bombs like 10 kids.
This guy's funny, but he's also killing a lot of people.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's weird how you just like, you learn to love the dude. I mean, he's a horrible. I don't know how else to describe it.
He does really bad things on screen, and yet you kind of like him.
Yeah, I saw this girl. She posted about it, Terrifier 3, and the scene. Well, we'll talk about it, but the scene when he goes and sees Santa for the first time, and it's like the funniest shit, because he's like, "Oh my god, it's Santa, and then all of a sudden he just like kills everybody in that room. But for the whole time, this girl, she commented and she was like, it's so crazy how Art the Clown, you just sit there and like when he starts doing all that stuff, you're like, oh, he's cute. She described him as he's cute. And I was like, that's so funny, because then immediately he just goes and again, like bombs a freaking Christmas mall. You're like, what the hell? So anyway.
Yeah.
Anything else about Terrifier?
He's no, it just kind of was just like
what
I said.
The main
it was just
chick, the chick who became, or the girl who became, with the face,
the mutilated face.
Yeah. So she actually, the sister,
she is a part of the whole arc.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah,
like a huge part.
But
so she is the sister, and then she gets absolutely annihilated at the end of the movie.
Right, and that's how the second one starts.
Well, he shoots himself.
Yeah,
and so then you're like, okay, Art the Clown, who is an actual guy,
right,
is dead.
So
and then they're like, okay, cool.
So you think?
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, he's dead.
Yeah.
And then, she's like absolutely effed up.
Oh yeah. Destroyed.
And then she goes on a talk show and then like kills the host.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty crazy.
And then fast forward a couple years, but in the movie, it's only like literally the next day or whatever.
It's like the same night.
Yeah, it's like, or like Halloween a year later or something like that. I think it's a year later.
Is it?
It's a year later, but the thing with the news reporter,
he still has the bullet hole in his head.
No. Well,
yeah, he feels his brain.
no, I remember that scene. Yeah, he wakes up in the corner thing.
And he like hangs up the phone because the like cop or the dude in the kitchen is like trying to call for help.
But it was Halloween, remember? So it was Halloween in the first one. And then the second one, it's Halloween again. I believe it's a year later, but he was doing something in between that time. Because
he still had the bullet hole in his head.
Because the lady, so at the beginning of the first one, I thought this was kind of a cool detail. At the beginning of the first one, it's like it shows this old TV showing this interview with the girl who got effed up, and then like it just kind of ends, right? And then you go through the whole thing, and you find out, oh, okay, the talk show host and that whole thing, that was this girl a year later. She had recovered. She, you know what I mean? See what I mean? And then what's cool is in the second one, you actually see him when he's preparing to be Art the Clown again. He's like putting the makeup on and all that. And he actually is watching that same interview on the TV, and he kicks the TV.
I do,
which
remember
happens
that
at
scene.
So it's a cool way to like tie it up and be like, oh, so it was him watching it. And then him, because at the beginning when it shows him watching it and he kicks the TV in the first one and he starts gearing up for his stuff, you think that's him gearing up for what is to come, but it had actually already happened, and he's gearing up to go after like Sienna and all that, which I think is kind of cool. Shout out Damien for that. So now, Terrifier 2, which is arguably the best film that features Art the Clown. With a breakout performance by final girl Lauren Lavera, this film featured heart, emotion, and more of a story than anything Art has been a part of. With characters you actually care about, great acting by its leads, and obviously more gore, Terrifier 2 is a massive hit and helped indie filmmaking in many ways. Tell me what you thought of Terrifier 2.
Oh, I loved it. I freaking loved it.
I know.
And for our listeners and viewers out there, the reason I love it is because, and I'm going to reiterate this again, character development and building them on screen to be likable so much that you feel the pain for them of what they're going through.
Yeah.
She was put through the ringer in that movie.
Oh, yeah. Who, you mean Sienna, right?
Yeah, Sienna, the main character.
Yeah.
She was put through the ringer. Everyone around her getting absolutely fucked up.
Her mom died.
Her mom dies. Her best friends die.
Yep. One of them way worse than everybody else.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. We'll get to that scene, but that's why I liked it so much, is it actually had more of a plot. Yeah, the first one, it built the main arc of that mutilated faced girl, right? But this one, it like truly follows like a nice building story.
Yeah, there was like scenes at a school, and like the budget was way higher.
Yeah, they were at school. They went to they went out to a Halloween party.
She did Molly. That was a funny scene.
Yeah.
Also featured a crazy Halloween shirt that I've actually seen on people. It says the boyfriend. It says just the tip, and it has a knife with some blood on it. That's kind of funny. And then he ironically dies by getting his dick ripped off, and then that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, that movie, it was good.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I liked the third one better, but I do think the second one was
one's really good. Dude.
Really good.
It's really good. Yeah. So
a crazy like step up from the first film.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I thought honestly we were in for something totally different. It's because the first one, again, like you said, it's not much of a plot.
Right.
And then when the second one came out, you're like, okay, are we going to get the same kind of thing?
Is he just going to go around killing people again?
And, the movie was almost 3 hours long.
Yeah.
So it's like,
what happens?
Yeah. And it's cool because the intro where it shows, I mean, it obviously starts with him, you know, breaking open a dude's head and like putting that dude's eye in his eye and all that. And it's just like, okay, this is your typical Terrifier shit. But then it cuts away to Sienna in some like synthwave music while the title cards are coming up and she's like building her Halloween costume. And I was like, yo, this is vibey as hell. And that's when I knew, okay, we're in for something different. And sure enough, we got it, dude.
Well, yeah, my main thought was, you know, as the movie progressed, you're like, okay, this family's ties to like Art the Clown through the dad was really interesting.
Yeah, they
and
opened
at first
a lot
I
of
was
plots.
like, is their dad Art the Clown? Like, you know,
Yeah,
I was thinking
solid.
that,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, maybe not. But he kept like those drawings just everywhere. It was like,
Yeah.
this is why there's got to be more to this family than we're led at this moment.
Yeah, I think, and you know, it definitely opened up a lot of stories or a lot of plots that were unsolved in Terrifier 2. You know, she's connected to the whole thing, and that sword that her dad like left her, and all that, and you know, all that kind of stuff. It was just, it wasn't really. He knew, like Art the Clown, like her brother, what's his name, Jonathan.
Yep.
He had that book, his dad's book with all the sketches. He was an artist, and it showed like a picture of art. It showed a picture of like the girls from the first movie and all that. Like he knew it was going to happen.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck?
It was
and
foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Hella hard.
Yeah. And then the end with Sienna dying and then coming back because like the sword like called her and stuff. It's like, what is the lore here? You're like,
I know.
it's badass, but it's like, I want to know more.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did know more in Terrifier 3.
It's true.
But before we move on to Terrifier 3,
We at the Clown Cafe.
we do have to talk about a very hot and heavy bedroom scene.
Oh, poor Casey. Poor Casey.
It's funny because at the beginning of Terrifier 2, when they were introducing all of Sienna's friends,
You knew they were gonna die.
I know, but I saw Allie, who's played by Casey Harnett, and I literally was like, oh, she's like the cute one. I'm like, oh, I hope she lives. I immediately was like, oh, I really hope this girl lives. She was like the cute one. The other one was the obnoxious one. Sienna was the main character. And then Casey was kind of like the cute, you know.
Yeah, her character was very innocent. Like kind of just there, you know, being a good friend or trying to be a good friend.
And little did I know that she would get the worst fate out of anybody else in that movie. Good God almighty. I hope one day we get Casey on this podcast and we can freaking
dive into that scene.
I want to dive into it 100%. And why don't you describe it? Because I don't have the heart to do so.
Oh, so horrific. It starts with her in her own house alone. She has the doorbell ring. And guess who's at her door? It's Art. He's like, looks like he's asking for candy.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're too old for this. You got to leave. Trying to get him out to go and like kind of basically shooing him away. Right.
Yep.
And he gets a little irritated. He's like, give me candy. He like opens his bag.
Yeah.
Like trying to get her. And she's like, no, get out of here. So he leaves. So you think.
Yeah.
And he breaks in.
Yeah.
It starts pouring rain, or it was
pouring rain. It was late
rain.
at night. Yeah. And yeah, she was getting ready for the party.
She was trying to go out with her friends, with Sienna, and meet her at the party for Halloween that night. And he breaks in and has a crazy chase down scene with her in her house. She runs to her room and it gets bad there. It gets really bad.
Yeah. Good God.
He eventually catches her in the room.
Yeah.
Stabs her in the back.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Grabs her by the head.
Yeah.
Rips her hair.
Well, first he cuts her eye.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, he just slices down her face. Goes right over her eye.
So I think that's actually the first. Like he
stabs her in the back, I believe.
I think he's chasing her through with a knife, but he doesn't actually get her. And then he like puts her on the bed. and then he does that because I remember.
Is that the first one?
Yeah, I think it is. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is because I do remember in the theater thinking, oh, she's going to get out of this. She's going to get out of this. And then the second, like I had that false sense of hope. And the second that he cut her in the eye, I go, oh no, she's fucked.
I could have sworn she got like stabbed in the back first.
Maybe she
to
did,
fall.
but she was still like running.
I think she fell and then somehow he grabbed her head, sliced her eye.
I thought he just threw her on the bed. And then he did that.
You know,
regardless, then
my brain is trying to remember as much as I can here.
I know.
You know, because I watched the movie maybe probably a few months at least ago. You know?
Yeah.
But regardless,
you remember when he scalps her though?
Oh, I'll get there. Cuts her eye, right? Stabs her, does whatever. He's mutilating her. You're like, okay, that was a little insane. No, he grabs her hair.
Yep.
And starts scalping her head.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God. Yep. And you're like sitting there just going like, wow, that was really brutal.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden he grabs her freaking hand.
Yeah, she like puts her hand up to stop him.
Yeah.
And then he
grabs it and just all of a sudden you just see her hand rip in half and you're like,
you know,
are you serious?
Yeah.
I think he also rips her other arm or something too.
Well, he I think he breaks it and then like rips it off. And then the other one he like splits in half.
Yeah,
and then
like,
to make matters worse, you think, okay, this is over, right? Well, then he like rips her back like off and then he takes some like salt and bleach and puts it on it just to make it worse.
And then after that, you're like, damn, that was insane. Her mom gets home.
Yeah.
Her mom comes home and she's like, she sees the broken glass window.
Yeah.
It's like pouring. You hear the rain. You're like, what is going on? Her mom's like, where are you? Where are you? Runs upstairs to her room, opens the door.
Yeah.
Art's literally knees on the bed.
Yep.
Messing with Casey's character.
She's
still alive.
Somehow. Her like half of her face is gone. Like her entire body is like just it's gone.
Art's like cutting her up and stuff. He just turns to the mom and just smiles
and laughs like silently
and just pointing at her, and the mom's freaking out.
Yeah.
And then the very next scene, all of a sudden the doorbell rings and you're like, it's Art. He answers the door to kids and it's the mom's head with candy in it.
I know, dude.
And you're just like, oh my God, this guy is just
They're all
ruthless.
like, it looks so real. It's like, yeah.
And he's just like handing it. He's like, oh. And then one kid tries to take more than one. He's like, swats it away.
Like, that's what I'm saying is like he could do something like that. And then all of a sudden he does something like funny like that. And you're just kind of like, he's funny.
I know. You forget about all of the like brutal killing. And you're like, that was pretty funny.
That was funny as hell.
And then he kind of like moves on. And that was it.
The one thing that Terrifier did, or Terrifier 2 did, though, was introduce Art as a supernatural being. Right. He came back to life thanks to a demon, which took the form of a little girl that was dressed like him, which, by the way, that little girl, freaky as hell. They also called back to the Ninth Circle in that one, in one little scene where Jonathan sees the little van that they drive around in, and she's in the front of the thing, and she's looking at him waving, and her eyes are lighting up, which is a shot from the Ninth Circle, which I think that's cool that Damien calls back to his prior works with Art the Clown like that. And so that's a cool thing. And then, obviously Sienna has to fight him, and then that's a cool whole thing in a fun house, like a little, circus type thing, and that's cool. So
and she gets him. She does get him.
She gets his ass, cuts his head off. And then it has one of the most insane fucking post-credit scenes that I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, move aside Marvel, because we got to see the one lady again with the mutilated face from the first one.
She's in some asylum.
She's in an insane asylum, and then she gives birth to Art the Clown's head, and then they just start killing people, and then you're like, oh, okay, so these two are going to be a dynamic duo, which, good Lord, were they. Enter Terrifier 3. Now, Terrifier 3, released 2024, last year. Art takes on Christmas. This film was a blast from start to finish, featuring insane practical effects, more laughs than any other Terrifier project, and a cool supporting villain. Art's take on Christmas was a super fun ride. It also ends with Art going on a bus with one woman passenger, a cool nod to the Ninth Circle. I saw that in the thing when he did that, I was like, this is cool. It's really cool. So, yeah.
What did you think about the movie?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I loved it. Dude, I can't get enough of Art the Clown. I mean, I do hope, and Damien has expressed this too. I think
his story does need to end.
Yeah, and I think he said that Terrifier 4 is going to be the last one. If not, then 5 will be the last. But he does. It's kind of like us horror fans. We know that too much is a bad thing, but it does suck because right now the hype train for Art the Clown is like insane. So having to stop now would be kind of a bummer. But I do think it does introduce everybody to Damien and maybe some future works that he does. So I do want them to end the Terrifier series on a good note. I hope that, Sienna can do what she needs to do and finally take these fools out because, as much as I do love Art the Clown, he's got to go down because he is just killing like everybody and anybody, And
so. Even when he went down, he got back up.
Exactly. And, in Terrifier 3, I did love how they went deeper into the lore. Also, nothing out of all of the Terrifier kills that I've ever seen, I don't think anything beats that shower scene. Oh my God, dude.
It's true.
And so there's these cool little nods to other horror icons in these movies, which I think is cool. Art might do something that's reminiscent of a Michael Myers or a Jason or a Freddy or whatever. But the coolest one is when he gets a chainsaw and they make this annoying podcast girl. I know we're podcasters, so it's kind of funny, but she's like,
in the theater when she was like, yeah, I'm a podcaster. I just looked at Cal and go, of course he would put this in there. Of course he would. Maybe he's annoyed with podcasters.
Maybe, dude. Well, because we don't do what like that
we're
lady
not
does
drilling into someone's like crazy past with a serial killer.
Yeah, no. And if you're a podcaster out there, my philosophy is like, don't fuck with other people's lives, especially if they've gone through some shit. I mean, you can ask for an interview, but like, don't make a scene like how this chick did in the movie.
Yeah, she was over the top.
Way over the top. And she had like this douchey boyfriend, and then they were in a shower together, hot and heavy. It's cool. And then it's funny because she's that one scene when they're in the dorm and she's like, I just want to be able to know what it's like to look inside of his eyes and just see what's there. See if there's anything there behind those eyes. I just want to see him, look at him. And then after he's done just absolutely obliterating them with the chainsaw, he has those glasses on and he just leans down, looks at her and lifts them up and just like looks at her and smiles. Like,
because during that scene, he was outside their dorm room just listening.
And that's what I'm saying. He's funny though, because he's just like when she's like, oh, I just want to see him and stuff. He's like, ooh. Yeah, but they add a couple family members for Sienna and stuff, and that's super fun.
Yeah, they introduce her aunt, uncle, and cousin.
And then eventually, Jonathan goes down. I guess. That's
what they want you to think. Right?
I think he's still alive. They show his glasses at the. I will say the final showdown.
He dropped his glasses, and Art was like,
dude, no, the whole thing with Sienna having to go get the sword again and then wrapping it as a present. And then the little girl knowing that present, because she they said earlier that she snoops into presents and then they give it to her. And then she has this big showdown with Art where she's like, he's got the chainsaw and she's got her sword and they're like fighting and throwing each other around. Dude, that scene was so cool.
What I really actually loved about this movie though, is it ended so crazy. It didn't end happy at all.
No,
It was the family members died.
Yep.
You think Jonathan might be dead.
Oh God, the rat kill.
And one sec. And all of a sudden this young cousin that's looking up to Sienna gets dragged into a hole.
Yeah, a crazy portal or something.
Art just dips. He's gone. And she's just left with nothing. Yeah. And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
How does she get out of this?
I know. No, that's the crazy thing is you kind of feel it at the end of Terrifier 3. If you watch Terrifier 2 and then you watch Terrifier 3, which is what I did, kind of sit there and you're like, God, I'm exhausted. I can't even imagine what they're like. And I love how it ends because Sienna's sitting there bloody as hell. I mean, she got freaking like beaten, like her hand got all effed up. Dude, I did love how every time Art would pass her when she was like strapped in, he would just fucking like slap her. That was funny. Just hit her on the back of the head. Yeah. But yeah, it's
a nice little thump.
It's just like she, at the end is like, okay, I have to go into this hole. I have to figure out, what my dad was talking about and all this kind of stuff. And then, so, she's getting ready, but she's beat to shit. And then it ends with Art getting on a bus. And then you can tell he's beat to shit. It's like they're both probably just so fucking tired of like fighting each other.
Oh, I know. You do see the dad in the movie.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's a cool little scene. Yeah, Terrifier 3 was really good. In my opinion, I really enjoyed it.
You're right, though. It does dive deep into the lore, and then you're like, still so many questions, though.
Well, it's cool. It's like, what did they say that Satan, which is kind of a cool callback to the Ninth Circle. It's like a demon or the devil possesses a being of such evil to be his, like, I guess, instrument. And during this time, angels do the same thing.
Right.
And they chose Sienna. Which is cool because in Terrifier 2, she's in the angel costume with the wing. Like that shit is cool. There's so many cool details in this stuff. And
you can tell it's really thought through.
Yeah. Which is cool. To really tie everything up, I think it's just awesome to see how we go from a little tiny short film like The Ninth Circle in 2008. And then we go to this. I mean, there's a Funko Pop of this fucker. Like, that's so cool.
Animatronics.
There's animatronics. Yeah.
Like costumes, just an icon. He's up there with literally Michael Myers and Jason and Freddy now. It's like out of just not completely nowhere, but what seems like nowhere, right?
Yeah.
It's just all of a sudden now he's in it, and that's
what I'm saying. I'm
proud. A big staple in it now.
Proud of you, Art. You did it. But where do you think the franchise is going to go? This is our last little bit, but where do you think?
I honestly don't know. I hope not space.
Yeah, a lot of people think space. Not sure what that's about, but a lot of people think that.
If you watch the movies, like, it shouldn't have anything to do with space.
Not at all. This isn't Fast and Furious. Okay.
Like if she's going to go to the underworld, no, I get that.
That would be right. See, but that would be cool as fuck.
No, I get that. I do think that's probably what's going to happen. Is she has to go into the underworld. She's going to save her niece or cousin, niece? Whatever.
Yeah.
Is it niece? I don't.
Yeah. It's the aunt and uncle's.
So cousin.
Oh, it's a cousin.
It is cousin.
Never mind.
But she calls her like her aunt. Maybe just because of the age difference. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know, dude.
Whatever. I'm curious to see if Jonathan's alive.
I'm sure he will be, because in a franchise like this, they always say in horror, if you don't see somebody die, they're not dead.
Right.
And in a franchise like this, where they really make sure everybody's dead. Yeah. I don't think Jonathan's dead, though.
Yeah. We never saw him die.
You just see his glasses like, oh, he's dead. I don't think he's still kicking. So we'll see how that goes.
But yeah, I'm excited to see kind of the end of this story. I really want to see kind of his downfall.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of been on top.
I think it's going to be epic.
Yeah.
I really do. I think there's going to be a big metal fucking fight, dude. And I'm excited for it a lot. So.
Not just one stab and the Ice Walker King is dead.
Yeah. What the hell, dude? Build up this big ass episode, and then it's like, you don't even get to see the fool like fight anybody.
Yeah, all of a sudden he just gets attacked from behind. It's just done. Toasted.
So we'll see. Yeah. I wonder if they're going to go back to Halloween, or what kind of holiday they're going to go to, if there's even going to be a holiday. I know.
Yeah, does it even matter anymore?
I don't think it does. But it would be cool to see like a different holiday.
Mm-hmm.
But would anything really hit the same as Halloween and Christmas?
Christmas did hit different.
It did. Yeah, the whole scene where he sees Santa and stuff was really cool. It was super funny. So.
And the callbacks to some horror classics right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Couple guys in there from old horror movies and stuff, which was cool. So yeah, I really just want to tie this up and say that I'm happy that we're here. I'm really happy that
he's getting the recognition he deserves.
Yeah. And it's crazy. If you would have asked me, back when I had watched All Hallows Eve, if I would A, have a podcast and B, have an episode where I'm talking about this movie and what eventually will come from it, I would have thought I was crazy. I don't know. It's cool.
The moral of the story here, though, is hard work does pay off eventually if you believe in it.
That it does.
Right?
Yes, it does.
So if you got goals and aspirations, keep working at it, because you never know how long it's going to take to get there. But if you never give up, you will probably get there.
Exactly.
And majority of people do give up.
Wise words from Jake.
So don't be that majority.
Nope. If you want something, go out and get it. Don't ever get discouraged. You know, if you have a dream and you believe in it, do it. That's what we're doing. We hope you guys enjoy it.
Very true. And we thank you all for tuning in and listening to our episode, because it means a lot to us. And Soul.
And Soul. It is crazy that we started this episode by talking about ASMR. So
we're going to end with it too.
From us here at the Supernaturals, we hope that you enjoy, and we'll see you around the graveyard. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this chilling episode of The Supernaturals. For your protection, make sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And stay tuned for the next episode.